What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a podcast audit episode. Got my pod pal Perry here from the Potential Leader Lab podcast. Perry, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here, Adam.
A couple of Midwestern podcasters jamming out. Love it. Let's set a goal to work towards today. If you and I are sitting here 6 months down the road, things are going really well for your show. Kind of paint that picture for me. What might that potentially look like?
Well, it would be I would have a better plan. Not a planner. So right now I have this kind of general plan. I started it last year, then I took a break, then I came back to it, got some renewed enthusiasm, and I'm doing 2 episodes a month right now. I want to flip that to I'm going to start in October of having 4. So I'll record 4 in September. And I want to actually do a calendar with all of the topics, kind of figure out what each of the 4 is going to be every week. Like maybe have 1 interview a month and maybe one, just get more organized and structured around it so I can start planning for it.
Great. And is there anything in particular that you feel like is keeping you from that right now? Is it like a time issue or just like a lack of experience issue? Anything that you could kind of pinpoint?
It actually it isn't as much time as it is just organization, right? So like I had to go back and actually look at all the ones because I've done I think like 30 episodes. So I'm looking at those and I actually have to keep track of what I've talked about so I don't talk about it again. So it's really organization because I have like these topics that I really love. So I might approach them differently, but I want to make sure it's fresh and it kind of and I want it to build. Like I want it to make sense if people are listening that we're building on something.
Okay, cool. Last question before we jam out on ideas here. Who is the ideal listener for your show? Just so I can kind of dial in on that.
I would say it's funny because I've done this exercise right a couple times, and really the people that are listening are mid-level kind of managerial folks all the way up to C-suite people, and so it's anybody who aspires to continue to evolve as a leader. And I use and when I say leader, it's just influence. And my goal is to help build a better world for those we care about. So that's my definition of leadership. So in that realm, anybody who's interested in doing that.
Okay. And I lied. I've got another question. Are you selling any services off of this? Is there a business objective for this right now?
I do. Yeah, I do, but I don't. I have not. There's never an explicit call to action on this. It's really just I started doing it because I wanted to expand reach and get my, I love to write, but there's something different when you hear somebody talk about something as opposed to when you read something. So that's what it started with. And now I've got the folks that I'm working with, a couple of my folks are like, hey, we could probably get sponsors for this. If you, and so there are some talk around, is there going to be a specific call to action, intro, outro, that kind of stuff, getting a little more polished.
Okay. And if somebody were to listen to the show and be like, man, I'd really like to hire Perry, do some consulting, is that a thing that you would look at doing?
Yeah, I do. I have some specific offerings, how I engage people, in my Vistage groups and things like that. But yeah, I'm working on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So let's really dive into this, getting organized, get your content reps going. Now the first thing we have to do is kind of set the why. Like why am I so passionate about weekly content specifically? So for me, weekly content leads to a podcasting superpower that not a lot of podcasters realize. And that superpower is that we can insert our content into the life rhythms and routines of our ideal listeners because they can be multitasking. And people don't consume YouTube content that way. They don't consume social media content that way. Like they aren't mowing their lawn and scrolling through Instagram at the same time. They aren't checking their email. They don't do, consume email marketing that way, but they can mow the lawn, listen to a podcast, walk their dog, listen to a podcast, do the dishes, listen to a podcast, work out, listen to a podcast, drive their kids to school, listen to a podcast. So we have the opportunity to be the show they listen to on Wednesday morning when they drive their kids to school. Like that, we're part of that routine. Like, oh, Adam's episode drops on Tuesday. I listen to it on my lunch break on Tuesday or when I work out on Tuesday or whatever. So we have that opportunity to be in that rhythm, and we take ourselves out of that superpower when we aren't doing weekly content because they have somebody else to put in there. Unless you've got a giant back catalog and they just found you, then they'll work through that. So if you've got a 30 episode buffer, if somebody finds you, you can be a part of that rhythm for several weeks in a row, and that'll grow. But this is still important, to take advantage of that as much as we possibly can. So that's kind of the why behind this. Now let's talk about the how of how do we get organized around this. And are you doing solo episodes? Are you having people on for guest episodes right now? A little bit of both. What's that look like?
Yeah, a little bit of both. And my plan is to have at least one of the 4 a month be someone on talking with me. At a minimum, there'd be one of the 4. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. And I've got a thing that I call the 2/3 content rule. If you are wanting to sell more, like if you wanted to be like, all right, I want to get consulting clients, I want to write a book and sell it, I want to get paid speaking gigs, then I want 2/3 of the content to feature you. So you're there. I mean, you're potentially you're about 50% now with the 1 out of 2, but if you're going to do 1 of the 4 monthly, that's a great ratio. I feel really good about that. So that's something to keep in mind. But I do an activity with people that I'm consulting with that are launching shows. And I think it could be appropriate for you, where we try to map out 52 episodes. And I go, okay, I want you, let's say we're going to do half and half. All right. And so half the list, 26, if you're going to create an online course, so you're going to create a program that you're going to sell to people, what would the 26 bullet points be that you want to cover? Those are 26 solo episodes. And people can normally rattle those out really quickly. And I'll give you and every podcaster this permission, although you don't need it, but sometimes it helps. I give you all the permission for these solo episodes. They can be as long or as short as you want. They do not, a lot of podcasters, especially in their first year, they're like, I do these interviews and they're 45 minutes. So I feel beholden to that 45-minute mark as a solo. And it's kind of intimidating and cumbersome. And like we cover what we need to cover in 10, 15 minutes, and then we're kind of babbling and rambling around for the other 30. So with a solo episode, say what you need to say. If that's 7 minutes, great. If that's 70 minutes, great. If it's 45, great. 37, great. Say what you need to say. Solo episodes are bingeable. People don't expect them to be these marathon, huge 45-minute plus episodes. So most of mine are about 15 to 20 minutes long. Some of them are more in like the 12 to 10, and that's okay. Deliver on the point that you want to deliver. Think about building like an audio course with these 26 solo episodes for the year, and go, all right, I'm going to, say what I need to say, focus on one thing, go deep instead of wide. And so if you've got a leadership process or a leadership framework there's 5 principles in your leadership framework, those are 5 episodes. You can cover deep dive on 1 per episode. So that's 26 episodes. Then on the other 26 with involving somebody else, we're going to split that in half and go 13 and 13. The top 13 are going to be guests that you would love to feature on your show. And I want you to be strategic with those guests. So I'm going to help you find these people. I want you to go on a top 200 podcast chart in whatever niche you find appropriate: business, management, marketing, whatever you think, entrepreneurship. And I want you to look at the top 200 on like Apple or Spotify. Start towards the bottom of the list, like shows ranked 150 to 200, and look at different shows and go, okay, that show, I feel like I would be a great guest on that show, and they would be a great guest for me. And those are the types of people we want to invite on first for these 13 guest spots that you're going to do for the year. And that's really strategic, and it's going to help you grow your show, because now you're networking and featuring and doing that value add first of somebody that's got a ranked podcast. So they're probably doing more downloads than we are. And I'm inviting them on my show. They may share it out and we get some growth there, but there's a really high chance, I'd say greater than 50%, that they go, hey, Perry, why don't you come on my show? I'm looking for guests too. Awesome. This is great. Now I'm on a ranked show. So I would look for 13 people that kind of fit that bill. They're a ranked podcaster. They're somebody that you would love to have on your show, and you'd be a great fit for their show. And then the other 13 spots, I would look for some sort of live coaching or consulting style episode. So you grab somebody that is your ideal listener out of your audience. It's exactly what we're doing right here, so that you can duplicate this process. Like, you found my show somehow, you found this link somehow. So it's possible. You've just proven it to yourself. We're here talking, and you invite a listener onto the show for a leadership audit, or you coach them up for 15 or 20 minutes on, okay, where are you at in middle management, C-suite? Okay, what's your next step? If they feel like they need to keep it first name only, or no names or whatever, because they're talking about work advancement or other jobs or things like that, you can do no video, whatever fits the bill there. But showing off what you do and like applied stuff. And so now you're doing solos, and a lot of that stuff you talk about the solos, you're going to talk about applying that actively with this type of an episode with what we're doing. So I've talked about content creation strategies like this before, but this is a powerful application episode that we're doing here. We're like, all right, let's really look at this from Perry's perspective and how to apply these techniques specifically. So, and obviously those 13 people will come as they show up into your world and as you market it and recruit. So we can't go, these are the 13 people maybe you can have a list of people you want to invite from your email list or something like that. But our goal will be to fill 13 spots. So if we have 26 solos, 13 guests that we're going after, and you've got 13 open spots for coaching style episodes, that's a year of content. We're good to go for week after week. Now, okay, I'll pause there. I've got further ideas, but let me pump my brakes. Thoughts, questions, concerns off of what we just talked about right there.
No, actually, I had heard you speak at the Content Entrepreneur Expo, and that's where, and I actually picked up on the live so I thought that was a great idea, to really kind of exemplify show people what you do in action.
Yeah.
But the other part of I actually have an online course I've developed, and I've already used several times. So the first part of that with using that as content is just I never thought of it, but it's a great, easy way because it's already stuff that I talk about all the time.
Yeah. And if you wanted to sell that online course, this is a great opportunity for you to go, hey, and if you like this episode, we go even deeper than this on my online course. I listened to a show called Small Business Tax Savings Podcast. And Mike Jezoshek, he's going to be coming on the show here down the road, but he covers what he covers in his membership on the show. And some people fear that. They're like, if they get it in the show, why are they going to pay for the thing? But it's like getting a recipe and you don't have a whole lot of confidence as a chef or a cook. You got somebody there to hold your hand and go, oh, no, a little bit more of that, a little bit more of this correct order, this as a priority over this other thing. And in the leadership space, it's even more important. Like your experience and your knowledge is going to be worth paying for. So, so I think that's a really good idea. And then have a little call to action of, if you like this, you're going to love my course. Maybe throw a special code out there that gives them 10% off or a bonus, something or other. An autographed life-size poster of Perry shows up to their doorstep. That always works. That's the number one sales technique that nobody knows about. Life-size autographed cardboard cutouts of yourself to your podcast audience. You'll hear Alex Hormozy talking about it soon, I'm sure. But like giving them a little, hey, use the code POD and save 10%. And that's only heard on your show. So that's very special for them. That type of stuff has worked for me. It's worked for my clients. And I think that, and that way you got your content mapped out. And the next phase is getting ahead. Because I don't want you to be the person that's like, ooh, episode's supposed to come out on Tuesday. It's a Monday night. Let's throw something together. So you ready to talk about kind of getting organized around the creation process? You feel comfortable moving forward into that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to find a sweet spot of batch recording. Like we're going to talk about batch recording and getting ahead. So like for me, I kind of have one focus project per week where I'm building out a new offer or something, or I'm doing an open challenge. That's something like there's always a main project going on, but then I've got my regular workflow. And in that regular workflow, I record, produce, and edit 2 episodes. So my main Tuesday episode and my podcast audit episode. But I'm always 3 weeks out in advance. So what I record today will show up on the RSS feed 3 weeks from today. So I can be sick or on vacation or injured, or I've lost my voice because I'm coaching 7th grade basketball or whatever. There's a 2-week buffer in there before it's like, got to get it out this week. And that's my good buffer zone. Some people can do more than that. I've gone more than that, and I felt a little bit out of touch with my content when it actually went live, and I didn't like that. I was like, "What did I talk about in this episode?" I started feeling that. I was like, "Oh, that's a little bit too far out there." Um, and it's also, I like to kind of keep a rhythm and keep sharp with content creation and stuff like that. So for me, I I worked a little extra. I took my main project off the table for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm just gonna record extra podcast content, get that built up, and now I just do one of each, so 2 episodes a week. That's going to be 3 weeks from today, and that buffer is always there. And if I go on vacation or get sick or whatever, and that gets eaten into, then I make that a priority, take my main project off the table, get caught back up, and always keep that 2 week buffer. And that served me really well. So I think at least getting a week ahead, going, all right, I'm recording this week and next week. And then I'm going to go just one per week and add that to my workflow. Like Tuesdays are my content creation day. So I would encourage you and anybody listening in, like, what is your blocked off time for? And that's the nice thing about solo episodes too, is like, if you're doing 15-minute solos, you could batch record a couple if you wanted to, pretty easy. And now edit and produce them and get them out there. Are you doing the editing production on your own, or do you have somebody that's helping you?
Yeah, actually, I'm in this respect, I'm one of those people that I know what I know, and I don't, that other stuff is outside of my comfort zone. So I have somebody, I actually go to a studio, a guy here in Columbus, and I do two. Well, I used to do four, now I do two. I'm going to go back to four, but we have the same day every month where I go in, record 2 episodes. And so we're a month ahead.
Nice.
The way I do it now. So my goal would be probably to do 2 days a month, and then I'll record 2 episodes, and then I want to, he always coached me. He's like, you want to be a month ahead at least, just so if anything happens, you're not panicked. And so I've from the very beginning, that's what I've been doing.
Good. So I mean, having that buffer will save podcasts from becoming, going to the podcast graveyard where you're like, I'm just going to take a little break. And then all of a sudden, oops, haven't recorded in 3 months. And then the guilt trip kicks in where you're like, I told my audience that I'd be there every week for them. And it's been 3 months. And I deal with this all the time where I'm like, you just got to get back in there and explain to people why you took a little break and just get going again. And, most of us aren't professional marketers or media experts when we get going on this thing, and we're kind of figuring it out. So it is what it is. But no, I think just getting that rhythm, keeping that buffer, and getting to that. Okay, now we're going to get a rhythm of, we go, Perry solo, and then guest, and then coaching. And that's like your monthly 4-week rhythm. And even if that gets disrupted, that's okay too. Just like, let's just get to the weekly thing. But I think batch recording those solos, the coaching style episodes, once you get a few of those out, and I would use a call to action that explains like, hey, if you want to do this, then go to the website. Here's how you sign up. And that flywheel starts to turn. Like, I didn't have to reach out to you directly to sign up for this. You somehow found a link somewhere or heard something somewhere, and you're like, oh, I can sign up for this. And that's what starts to happen more and more often as you release those episodes. And really, you get 10, 12, 20 of these types of episodes out there, and people are hearing, ooh, this is kind of cool. He's doing live coaching. This is neat. And here's how I do. I can do this too. And it's free, and I can be on the show. So you'll have more people just kind of opt into that without you having to heavily market or remind people to do that. And super efficient. You can batch record. I actually record 2 of these every week. So I'm always even more ahead, just in case I hit a drought of people not wanting to sign up or something like that, because it is dependent on them signing up. But I've been able to do this for like 2.5 years, every single Friday. So we're on a good hot streak here. We're on a heater. So yeah, I think you got a good game plan in place now. You got content ideas. I think the next logical step is, let's batch record a little bit and fill in the gaps to kind of get that rhythm going with the solos, the interviews, and the coaching episodes. And then you just kind of keep the flywheel turning with, okay, I'm going to record 1 a week, make sure that gets out there. Or if you're going to go, all right, I'm going to sit down for the first week of the month and batch record and do that. Like, whatever your rhythm is, you kind of keep that going. You don't break the cycle. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I feel good about the content rhythm and ideas there. I think we got some good actionable steps. Let's talk about a little bit about optimizing discoverability for your show to help new listeners find it. So the show is called Potential Leader Lab Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I would strongly consider adding what I call a title extension to this. And it doesn't have to be in your official branding if you don't want it to be. And you don't even have to mention it on the show. Like I've got a title extension for Podcasting Business School, but I never actually verbally mention it. And I change it a lot because it's all about getting keywords into the name of the show, getting more keywords into the name of the show so that somebody is searching certain things, I'm showing up. So, I mean, I think in the leadership space, honestly, I would make sure I have the word leadership in because I think people are going to search that more than they will leader, the word leader itself. But if they do search leader, they may pull up leadership, but then we're getting heaped into a big batch and you may be the 100th show that they see. So I would kind of go Potential Leader Lab, leadership tips for, or leadership conversations about, and then I want to get the word business, C-suite, mid-level managers, management, office manager, whatever, like all those words that your ideal avatar that we talked about would use to describe themselves or the role that they play. I want like 2 or 3 of those in there somewhere.
Okay.
Because that way when they're searching C-suite executive or they're searching career growth, like that might even be another, leadership tips or leadership conversations about career growth, moving up the corporate ladder, job opportunities, whatever you think, like this little, I want like
Right.
blah, blah, blah tips for, or conversations, keyword. So we can sneak in 2 or 3, maybe 4 more keywords. And it's really going to help, man. Like it's going to help. And again, you don't have to ever say it. Your brand is Potential Leader Lab. But just having that title extension in the title line itself is going to really help quite a bit. It's going to help. I've had people do this and they double their downloads in 30 days. And I've had that happen a lot. So, but those big searchable terms, you got to think, what is your ideal listener putting in the search bar in Apple and Spotify? Not Google, not website search. So it's a little bit different, but so if I'm a C-suite executive looking to level up my career, will I type in leader or leadership? Maybe, but am I going to probably put in C-suite advancement or career advancement tips or something like that? The word career or careers would probably be important to think about. And whatever words, like create a little search term keyword bank, maybe get 10, 15 terms in there, pick the top 2 or 3 you want to feature in the title. And the rest of them, we can use in episode titles. We can use in your podcast host description. We just want to use those words. Whatever words that they're putting in the Apple search bar, the Spotify search bar, we want to use those as often as we can in our podcast ecosystem, because that's just going to pull those people in. And so for my show, the key phrase is podcasting tips. And I use that a lot everywhere. And that's something that when you put podcasting tips in Apple or Spotify, I've got 3 different podcasts and all of them pop up. So that shows that it works. But so any thoughts, any questions on that, Perry?
No, that's good. That's I'm going to do a little research and figure out what that group of terms is, and then just maybe on a rotating basis, just keep changing it up and including as much of that as I can.
Yeah, and that could be something you go on like LinkedIn and post like a poll or something. Like if you are a C-suite executive, what terms would you use to describe yourself? Another question would be like, I've got a show about, and kind of describe your show. If you were looking for a show like this, what would you type into Spotify? What would you type into Apple if you were searching for this type of a show? What words? And you just start making notes and going, oh, or if somebody reaches out to you and they're like, I love your show, bro, I'm obsessed, then thank them. They probably have a question, answer the question, and then go, hey, what were you looking for? What do you remember what you typed into the search bar? How did you find me? Just reverse engineer that, man. You could even create like a little Google form or something. Like, hey, could you fill out these 3 questions for me real quick? And just kind of collect a little, how did you find it? What were you looking for? And then like, what episode topic do you need me to produce that you would love to hear on the show? And people appreciate that. They really love it. And it's kind of one of the superpowers and advantages of being an independent podcaster and being a smaller, getting started podcaster is that we can actually connect with people. Like you heard me speak on stage. There were several people that spoke at that event that there is no way you could access them like you're accessing me today. Like they
Right.
have all sorts of gatekeepers and, the teams and all this stuff. But like as a smaller independent podcaster, that's one of the things I promote. I'm like, you got access to me. Like, let's connect. I want to do this. I will initiate that engagement and that connection and invite you in to do this sort of thing. So that's something that you can do as well and kind of showcase that. So keep that in mind as well. Sound cool?
Yep. Awesome.
All right, Perry, I want to make sure you get to shout out your show and your brand. So if people want to come check out the World of Potential Leader Lab, where do they go on social media, website? Where do you hang out, man?
Well, website is just my name, perrymoffmer.com, and they can access the podcast as a tab on there. So that's where they can find me. And then I really there in LinkedIn. I don't do much on any other right now.
Yep. Go check out Perry on LinkedIn. His last name is spelled Maughmer. Go check him out. Say hello. Tell him you heard him on the show. Now, if any of you want to come on and do a podcast audit just like Perry, go to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the freebie button. You will see it right there. Get on my calendar. We're filling up for the summer months into the fall already. So hop on the calendar and I'll be glad to invite you on the show. Perry, appreciate you for coming on here. And we're going to look forward to seeing what happens with the Potential Leader Lab podcast. And we'll keep cheering you on from the sidelines here. For everybody out there, appreciate you listening in. And I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you next time.